Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're aiming to cut through all the noise,
Yeah.
give you a real shortcut to being properly informed. We've scanned the key sources, Reuters, BBC, CNN, Bloomberg, you name it, and we've distilled the top 10 global stories from, well, basically the last 10 hours or so as of July 2nd, 2025. Think of it as your essential snapshot.
Exactly. And what's really striking is how these aren't just isolated events. You can really see the connections, the bigger picture emerging across the globe. It covers such a fascinating range: economic shifts, geopolitical tensions, tech breakthroughs. It's about seeing that whole mosaic.
Okay, let's dive into that mosaic then. First up, France. There's a new labor reform package. Seems pretty controversial, reducing job protections. What's the immediate reaction?
Well, the immediate reaction is unions calling for mass strikes, Paris, other big cities. And there are real fears this could escalate, like those massive pension protests back in 2023 that really caused chaos. It's that classic tension.
Right, that tension between reform and stability. Okay, moving from French streets to the Middle East. Gaza. Israel seems to be intensifying ground operations in the north, widening evacuation orders too. What's the world saying?
There's significant international outcry, really. The UN, Western allies,
Mhm.
they're warning about a potential humanitarian collapse, a full-blown one. We're hearing about continued high civilian casualties, infrastructure getting destroyed. It's just worsening an already, frankly, dire situation. A critical point.
Dire is definitely the word. Okay, shifting gears then. Let's talk economy. China. Reports show manufacturing growth, third month running, and export demand seems to be picking up based on the new PMI figures.
Yeah, that's right. Factory output is up. It seems largely driven by state-backed stimulus and maybe some helpful shifts in global trade patterns. But
Mhm.
and it's a big, but there are still these persistent worries about the property sector risks inside China. So growth, yes, but with a significant vulnerability still working.
Okay, and domestically in the U.S., something big for tech and, well, free speech. The Supreme Court's agreed to hear challenges to those state-level TikTok bans.
Yes, this is huge. It really brings up fundamental questions about First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, especially in our, digital world. The outcome could have massive implications, not just for digital speech, but for national security policies, how the U.S. deals with foreign tech companies. It's a major case to watch.
Definitely. Okay, meanwhile, over in Eastern Europe, Russia's claiming it captured villages in eastern Donetsk.
They are claiming that, yes, but Ukraine is denying the full extent of it. And maybe more importantly, Western analysts seem to be calling it more of a grind, not a breakthrough.
A grind, not a breakthrough. So slow, attritional fighting, not a decisive win.
Exactly. It underlines the really brutal ongoing nature of that conflict.
Got it. All right, let's look at the markets. Global stocks seem a bit mixed, jittery, waiting on the Fed's minutes.
Yeah, a bit jumpy. Asia edged up slightly, but European markets dipped. But interestingly, Wall Street futures are hinting at some, well, modest optimism.
Optimism, despite
Yeah.
the broader uncertainty.
It seems to be driven almost entirely by resilience in the AI sector. It's like it's in its own bubble, defying the wider mood. Raises questions, is it sustainable? Or masking other issues.
Speaking of tech and security,
hmm
South Korea, they've launched their first homegrown military spy satellite.
They have a successful launch. The goal is pretty clear: strengthen their deterrence against North Korea, better eyes in the sky, basically. And predictably, North Korea condemned it immediately, vowed countermeasures. So another turn of the screw on the Korean peninsula.
Another escalation. Okay, circling back to economic pressures, Argentina. Sounds like chaos there with mass transit.
Yeah, Buenos Aires saw subway and bus services just halt completely. Transport unions are demanding emergency wage hikes. And you have to understand the context.
Which
Spiraling inflation. We're talking near 180%. The peso's weakening fast. The central bank's under huge pressure. So these strikes, they're a direct result of people just trying to survive, trying to keep up as their money becomes worth less and less.
180% inflation.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay, another difficult situation. Sudan. The UN's issued a red alert. Famine looming. Millions facing starvation.
It's a truly dire warning, and the causes are complex, but agencies are pointing fingers. They're citing not just conflict and economic collapse, but deliberate obstruction of aid access. Ongoing fighting is blocking relief. It's heartbreaking. Food just isn't getting through.
Just awful. Okay, let's end on a, well, different kind of news. A tech milestone. NVIDIA briefly became the world's most valuable company,
Yeah.
overtaking Apple and Microsoft.
Yeah, quite the moment. Driven almost entirely by the massive hype and investment pouring into artificial intelligence. It's incredible. But connecting the dots again, there are also plenty of analysts warning about a potential bubble risk here, especially when you hear reports that company insiders have actually been selling off stock during this huge rally. So market frenzy versus maybe internal caution.
Yeah.
Interesting dynamic.
Wow. What a range we've covered. French labor strikes, Gaza conflict, China's economy, U.S. courts on TikTok, the war in Ukraine, markets, satellites, Argentina's crisis, Sudan famine risk, and NVIDIA's surge.
It really is incredible, the breadth in just 10 hours.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
So much happening all at once.
And it makes you pause, doesn't it? How do all these seemingly separate things, conflicts, economic strains, tech booms, human crises, how do they actually reflect these deeper, interconnected global shifts? What does this whole mix tell us about, well, power dynamics today? Maybe about human resilience in the face of it all. Something to chew on.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today.